my question to you is like, what are the metrics that you do care the most about?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, with running backs today, which we're talking about, I tend to lean kind of primarily on draft capital and athleticism, right? So speed score and agility score. College target share is a really important number for running back prospects, right? Because we want to see running backs who have a 3-down skill set in the NFL. And also specifically at this point in the process of, especially at this point in the process of running back prospecting here in February, I like to look at Lance Zierlein's NFL.com grades, because I think David Zach from Dynasty Nerds has shown that his grades have been equally predictive of success as draft capital, right? So right now in February, when we don't have draft capital and we're still trying to gain an edge on our league mates, those scores are pretty important to me. Another metric for running backs that I've kind of been incorporating into my process recently is Noah Hills at Noah More Parties on Twitter, kind of the lead analyst for Breakout Finder. He's really good at creating efficiency metrics for running back prospects. And one of his newest ones is called Box Adjusted Efficiency Rating, which essentially looks at how running backs are performing in relationship to both their teammates and the amount of defenders in the box, right? Because he's kind of coming in with the assumption that good running backs perform well, especially in comparison to their teammates, and they do it and also that numbers of defenders in the box has an effect on that performance, right? So that's kind of been a new input into my overall process that I think we'll talk about a little bit later as we get into the prospects themselves. So yeah, for running backs, for receivers, market share, dominator rating, breakout age, right? There's kind of a set of metrics that I think are pretty tried and true. I think the general consensus is that wide receiver analytics are kind of the best that we have in terms of predicting NFL success. So yeah, I just kind of I followed the party line there.
Dude, that sounds really cool. I had not heard of this box adjusted. What was it? Box adjusted?
Yeah, it's called Box Adjusted Efficiency Rating, and he very cleverly hyphenates it as BAE rating, BAE. So yeah, he's like also got yards per carry plus, which is really honing in on how running back is performing in relation to their teammates. He also does one called chunk rate, right? So that measures big plays. So I really like reading his work at Breakout Finder in terms of running back prospecting.
What I like about this statistic is that, a lot of the times when folks dismiss analytics from the film side, they're saying, well, not every yard is equal. Not every catch is equal, right? If I get a yard with 8 defenders in the box versus 6, that 1 yard might be more impressive. Or maybe even it's, to the extent of what side of the ball are they lined up in and where am I running? Right. This reminds me a lot of 2 different metrics that I have evaluated and taken a look at. The first is a little bit more of an implicit metric, backfield dominator rating. So this one is taking a look at in your own backfield, you can catch the implicit importance of a player by seeing how much that offense gives that player the ball in the backfield. So for that reason, guys like Isaiah Spiller, while the film guys tell me he's really awesome, his backfield dominator rating is under 50%. So if you have under 50% of your own backfield snaps, that, is a signal to at least acknowledge. Sure. And then the other one that I like to use is rush yards over expected, which you've probably heard of, which was introduced through the NFL Big Data Bowl. And I thought that was a really fascinating one because that one is another way to slice up the data to take into account where the running backs are running, what acceleration they're generating, what the defenders are, and what the expected number of yards they're supposed to get, given the movements in the orientations of all of the players. So I think that this BAE rating and rush yards over expected put together could tell you a really, really comprehensive story about these players. And I'm definitely going to incorporate that in my analysis now. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, sure. There's also, Graham Barfield's yards created metric, right? I really like rushing yards over expectation, the way that metric, uses AI and uses all these different technologies in order to kind of make our evaluation smarter. So I also like rushing yards over expectation as well. It's kind of a big reason why I'm low key fading Najee Harris in my own dynasty ranks, because he does not chart very well in those kind of yards created or yards over expectation metrics. But there's so many different metrics that you could incorporate into your process, that it's almost overwhelming, but like in a good way,
An aside that I have here that just kind of popped into my head is that I also did not really like Najee as a prospect comparative to the other running backs. Like Javante's always been my running back one for last year's class. But the number one metric that like I think it matters in the NFL that doesn't really matter in college as much is volume. Because Najee, for instance, he might not be the most efficient, but damn, if they're going to run him 20 times and they're going to throw to him like 8 to 12 times a game, like it doesn't really matter if he's efficient because he's just going to keep eating and eating and eating.
True.
So he's almost guaranteed to have a touchdown and 80 yards and whatever. And, while we're looking at draft prospects, like we really can't evaluate what volume will necessarily be like. But I think that is something that, is... it's interesting to reflect back to previous classes and see how that volume metric has impacted how we perceive those players, draft class over draft class.